Hello! Today we'll be playing more Tag Me Max. If you remember in our successful demo episode on rook trading, we played Tag Me Max as well, and now we're continuing to jam some more games with it. Well, this is rather a characteristic because typically I just play one or two games with most of my decks for successful demo and then move on. To be honest, this is actually the very first deck since the release of the Kitara cycle where I felt like I actually enjoyed playing it, at least on the runner side. A lot of the new decks, just don't really appeal to me, especially the tier 1 decks. I'm not a Shaper fan. Shaper was popular and all, and then Anox became popular as well. The bin breakers are powerful and everything, but I never really felt that regular Valencia was very fun. Tag Me Max, on the other hand, while not a tier 1 deck by any means, it is a lot of fun to play. And here's why. I think, I really like the pressure when both players put in the pressure cooker right from the get-go. Racing against the clock, Tag Me Max wants to accumulate a lot of tags and threaten that counter surveillance, while obviously the Corp wants to defend against, wants to win before Tag Me Max gets too many tags and wins off a counter surveillance. Playing the Max deck is by no means easy, because it's not a tier 1 deck. It doesn't have enough powerful cards in there to, play solitaire. You can't just focus on setting up your obelisks, your tags, and then your counter surveillance. It doesn't work that way. A good corp will, force you to make runs, make remote runs, and that's going to cause you a lot of problems. While you're trying to set up, it also disrupts your management of your board state, right? Especially if you play amped up and don't have obelisks, you are going to have to decide which cards to keep and which cards to ditch. Making an entrance is a very tricky card to play in Max, and you have to worry about your resources as well, which will clog up your hand. You can't simply play them on the table once you take tags. So there's a lot of management going on, and then you still have to plan around your 4-click turns, because rook trading takes 2 clicks and you have to install resources on the turn you run. So yeah, a lot of management going on there, and it's a pretty high skill cap deck in my opinion. I think a lot of people have the impression that Tag Me Max is a game of solitaire where all you want to do is to take tags and play counter surveillance, but in practice I find it's hardly so. Again, mostly because it's not a tier 1 archetype. It doesn't have enough powerful cards to just ignore the corp, take tags, and win off counter surveillance. Unless the corp is playing a solitaire game of their own, you'll find that you need to actually interact with the corp, oftentimes outside of making counter surveillance runs. So yeah, pretty enjoyable deck, and I've received some feedback from the successful demo video regarding my deck list. I think the biggest criticism people have is, you're playing all these Tag Me stuff, you're playing Wireless Net Pavilion, why aren't you playing Resource Protection in Fall Guy or Dummy Box? Obviously, I'm not silly enough to forget about that these cards exist. Obviously, they are really good in conjunction with Wireless Net Pavilion, making it basically impossible for your opponent corp to trash your resource rig. And yeah, that also enables you to play other resources, especially Yaragnith Mercs, which protects you against some of the archetypes which you otherwise suffer with, especially meat damage protection. That is very powerful. Unfortunately, the problem with the resource setup is that you need too many deck slots to justify running the entire resource package. At the very least, as a baseline, you want to be running all 3 Wireless Net Pavilions, you want to be running the dummy boxes, 2 copies of them because of influence, and then you want to have Yaragnith Mercs by any means, and then you also have to play a current of your own to defeat scarcity of resources, which is otherwise something that will cripple your deck. And that's a lot of deck slots. That's basically a quarter of your 45 card max deck, and I simply cannot afford the card slots for it, because this means compromising on my card draw, compromising on my economy, and you can't give that up, because your deck will be a lot less consistent for a bunch of cards that don't directly enable your win condition. It's not like in the past where Data Leak Reversal was a thing. It was a win condition on its own. Just include 3 copies of Data Leak in your deck and you have a win condition. That's not the case here. In modern day Tag Me Max, you need a lot of cards to enable your win condition. 3 Rook Tradings, 3 God of Wars, 3 Mars for Martians, and 3 Counter Surveillances. That's your win condition package. that takes up a lot more deck slots than the Data League Reversal used to, which is why we do no longer have the luxury of playing all these wonderful resources. So this is actually my deck list now. Compared to the deck list I played for Successful Demo, you'll notice some updates. Most importantly, I finally found a way to spend my 2 Dangling Influence. I'm using them on Breakers, Femme Fatale. Turns out Femme Fatale is a really good breaker and serves as a nice backup to God of War, which is often unreliable, especially if you don't draw the Dean Lister with it. Femme Fatale also deals with some of the nastier ice which God of War has trouble dealing with, most notably Resistors, which are very high strength, and Komainu. Komainu has the potential to gain many subroutines if you're not careful with running before, running after drawing lots of cards. But Femme Fatale allows you to bypass the on-encounter effect, therefore negating the subroutine gain of Komainu completely. Femme Fatale also means that we are going to be running Retrieval Run now, which helps us cheat Femme Fatale into play, but also in a typical Tag Me deck, is used to get your God of War out early, increase the consistency of a turn 2 or even turn 1 God of War. So to make way for these cards, unfortunately, we have to cut away some parts of the resources, which is again why we cannot afford to play Wireless Net into Dummy Box, into Yarok New Melks. We simply don't have the slots for it. They are the easiest slots to cut in this case. You'll also realize that Yarok New Melks, while very important because, Boom kind of ruins you, unfortunately, we just don't have the slots to slot Yarok New. This deck just doesn't work well with Yarok New Melks. If you install it, the core is simply going to trash it click 1, and then Boom you clicks 2 and 3. Yarok New Melks is not going to defend you against Boom. So we are just going to run Brazenly and hope that Obelisk can save us from the Boom. Not to mention that Yarok New Melk's secondary ability of gaining you a tag is objectively worse than including more card draw cards, which allow you to get the bigger tag cards like Rook Trading and God of War. So I played around with this list and had some really fun moments with it. If you don't believe this list is fun, just watch this clip. It'll convince you. The big boy playing his ad tag and installing an ice, install advancing in the remote. That's definitely a corporate sales team. Can we get to it? Yes we can. We have 17 credits. We have a Fem in the bin. We have Retrieval Run. You know what's coming. We gonna Retrieval Run. And we have DDoS. We use the... Nope, we don't have DDoS. We're just gonna run normally. We hit the Archangel. That's fine. We have the Black Orchestra. We can break through the Archangel. And we should be able to bypass... Nope. We don't have 6 credits. We can't bypass the Eula. Oh man, feels bad, man. Fem against Eula. Feels so bad. Well, I guess we're conceding the corporate sales team here. Let's just run R&D here. Or rather run HQ. Get a card draw of Obelisk. Stupid Eula stopping us from getting into the sales team remote. Well, gonna score it. No, it's an NGO! What a ruse! You're so rude! Made me install all those breakers for nothing. So yeah, pretty fun game, but we won't be featuring that particular game today. Instead, we'll be, going back to our classic Tag Me Max versus Tag You CTM matchup. I really love this matchup, and we are gonna have a good game to feature today. I'm very excited for this. Let's get going. What is this opening hand? Obelisk and 4 crappy cards? Nah, we'll take another hand. This one's much better. We have all the tags we need. Admittedly, not something we exactly want against CTM. There's a hard limit to the number of tags we want here. But with this sort of start with Amped Up and Rook Trading, we can do some nasty damage here. Problem is, I need to find an Obelisk ASAP. And one of them's already in the bin, thanks to Max's ability. That's not good. Right, the other thing we need to worry about is, typically in such a scenario, with this board state, my turn 2 would be take 18 credits of Rook Trader, using 1 Amped Up in the process. You have 6 clicks to do that. Unfortunately, against CTM, that only invites them to play closed accounts, which is why you don't see me taking all the money of Rook Trading here. If my opponent wants to bankrupt me, well, they would have to play close accounts and trash my Rook Trading here. So instead, I'm spending the remaining clicks to actually find my Obelisk. Obelisk is a very key card here because I can hold more of my tools and also protects me against boom on the off chance that my opponent's running it. Unfortunately, I don't find it. So we are going to be up 13 credits, 3 tags, but no Obelisk and down to 3 hand size because I played too amped up just to get to this point. Yeah, I used all those clicks frantically digging for my Obelisk, but it just didn't come up. There are 2 of them in the bin. Obviously, Max's ability not doing well for me this game. And again, this just goes to show why consistency is so important. A lot of people ask me, what, you're running too many draw cards, what's making an entrance for? Surely you can afford to go up to 46 plus cards since you're max, all those stupid excuses. This is a very prime example of why you need a 45 card deck with lots of card draw cards, even with all the help you put into your deck to draw your combo pieces. Sometimes, like this game, you just don't find your Obelisk, and now I'm suffering big time because I'm forced to play resources that my opponent can easily trash, like the Dean Lister that is on my table here. Stuck at 3 hand size. This is not where you want to be. So yeah, I really cannot emphasize enough how important it is to be on a 45 card deck, right? An Obelisk will would take much longer to get if I made my deck any bigger. So what you actually see me doing is I actually preemptively levy. I levied very early on here because I think I saw my 3rd Obelisk hit the bin. So knowing that that's the next combo piece I need, I had to levy there and then make an entrance, and at least that make an entrance actually found me the Obelisk. It was within the top 6 cards, so I could rearrange my deck, draw into it, and install it in the same turn. Again, thin deck, a 45 card deck is really coming into play here. And what's really helping me as well is that my opponent has an atrocious early game start. You'll notice that my opponent hasn't trashed any of my resources at all despite me being tagged to heck. And that's because they themselves don't have an economy engine at all. They're relying on commercial bankers group and personalized portals, but just haven't drawn a single one of them yet. So unfortunate for my opponent that they can't contest my board because there's some really juicy resources that really should be trashed here. As you see, my opponent just spending 3 clicks to draw. That's how desperate they are to find economy. They will draw. I need my econ assets. I can't find them. They ditch a bunch of cards in the bin, and I should have taken that as a sign of them agenda flooding. If they're not drawing the money cards, if they're not drawing any other assets, they're drawing agendas, and they're in the bin. So I ignored that, which was a mistake, instead choosing to set up for a counter surveillance run on HQ. Now, I'm going to sweep the entire HQ here. Actually only 4 tags, so 4 of the 5 cards. Now I see a bunch of cards including a psychographics and a Bew, so I'm very happy to defuse the Bew threat. But as it turns out, there were actually more agendas in the bin than in hand, because my opponent is about to play preemptive action this turn. Yep, last turn they drew a bunch of cards, they discarded a bunch of agendas in the bin, and I should have ran archives. Well, I needed every single click that turn to sweep HQ, and I'm very happy to get the Bew regardless, because that means my opponent cannot cycle Bew, at least not for now. The trouble is, I need to lock R&D from this point on, because I know they have the psychographics in hand. They are not going to throw that away anytime soon, so the only way I can stop them from winning at this point is to stop them from seeing any more Project Bews, which means locking R&D, which means playing a counter surveillance right here, risking the R&D ice because I do not have a DDoS in play. I didn't draw one, so I'm just hoping that I can beat whatever ice this is with Dean Lister with God of War. My opponent was only on 5 credits, so I figured it should be doable. But my opponent actually res a very annoying piece of ice against me. Normally, Turnpike is a great piece of ice for me to see because I don't mind taking the tag, but in this specific scenario, I was on exactly 5 tags and 5 credits. If I wanted a successful counter surveillance run, I needed to actually break the subroutine in order to not get the tag. So I was forced to pop the Dean Lister there, but at least I steal the second Bew. So there's only 1 remaining Bew left in the deck. I'm feeling a lot less pressured to run R&D now. And having seen the top 4 cards or so of R&D, I can take a couple of off turns to set up for my next counter surveillance, which is right in my hand. I drew into it thanks to the Obelisk. So now we are ready to go. Yeah, we'll just wait for our opponent to draw through the R&D lock, and then we'll run with counter surveillance again. So far looking very good for me. And my economy is definitely there as well. I have the tags, I have Mars for Martians in my hand, and I have rook trading. I know that my opponent is running close accounts. I think I saw it off the HQ counter surveillance run. So I'm avoiding stashing too many credits. As you notice, I'm slowly taking the money off rook trading. I'm not taking all of them off at one go. It'll make me too big of a close accounts target. If my opponent wants to cripple my money engine, they have to play close accounts and trash both of my rook tradings, and even then, I still have Mars for Martians in my hand, which can be played on 0 credits. Now my opponent made a very astute, wonderful play here. I was going to counter surveillance R&D. This turn would have been click 1 install counter surveillance, clicks 2 and 3 levy, and then click 4 go in for a counter surveillance run. Now that I'm seeing it, it probably doesn't work because I don't have enough credits. But yeah, one thing I could have done last turn was easily fire off the counter surveillance on R&D to see 6 more cards of R&D and then go for the levy next turn. My opponent denied that because now they have a second ice on R&D, which means it's harder for me to make that counter surveillance run. Without a DDoS in my hand, I can't do it. So my opponent basically thwarted my plans. I can't run R&D here, and running HQ is more or less useless, knowing that they don't have other cards in agendas in their hand. I looked at my bin, I realized that there was still a lot of DDoSes left in my deck, so I injected here to see a DDoS. I could have gone for the DDoS into surveillance play here, but I think I was a couple credits short, so I went for a third rook trading instead, setting up a robust economy engine. At this point, you'll notice my opponent is still dirt poor. They still haven't found their econ cards. So what this means for them is that they can't contest my board at all. They only have 3 credits. They can't contest my economy engine. No point in them trashing the rook tradings. So yeah, you can see my opponent's languishing economy is really costing them this game, as they allow me to set up my economy and then go for a counter surveillance run here. So I'm definitely tempted to pop DDoS counter surveillance here. What I would really like to do is to actually levy before popping the counter surveillance. You'll notice I played the amped up there to get extra clicks, then I levy. Oh no, I didn't levy, that was a mistake. Yeah, I'm not sure why I did not levy here. Levying would be a great move here because that would allow me to get an Obelisk trigger and draw a lot of cards on my second levy. But instead, I'm just gonna do the DDoS counter surveillance as normal, see a bunch of cards, none of which are agendas. That's really annoying. And I don't even really have the money to trash most of the other cards. Funny enough, they actually score an AR enhanced security, which means that the more cards I trash, the more tags I get, which is kind of a good thing as well, given I have Mars for Martians. Alright, and I also get to see all the influence pips. I saw team sponsorship, I saw, yeah, I saw bankers groups as well, yeah. So basically saw a bunch of influence, figured that they were on Rash Decisions, which is Chris Dyer's CTM deck that he posted on Netrunner DB not too long ago. So good to know what my opponent is on, what they can threaten me with, and what they can't. Really, the only thing I'm worried about at this point is psychographics, but they're still 2 steps away from it. First, they need to get enough money, which they're still pretty far away from. 11-point view would need 11 credits, and they're not there yet. They also would need to actually find a view. That's going to be difficult given that I've been counter-surveillancing them. So I'm going to suppress the economy. Since the economy engine is weak, I can actually viably contest the economy, and this will hurt them more than it hurts me. Given that I still have 3 rook tradings on the table, each with 6 credits, I love this. Money on tap all day, every day. Right, unfortunately they had a second personalized portals ready to go, so that fires, that gives them money. I guess I'll have to trash that as well. Right. And I'm trying to keep track of how many cards my opponent has drawn off the top of their deck, because I have another counter surveillance DDoS combo ready to go. But first, deny their economy, put the portals where they belong. This is sapping away tempo from me, costing me clicks and credits. The problem is, I'm now actually racked up a whole 16 tags. This is a bit too many against CTM. It's not usually a problem, except that I'm gonna lose to an instant psychographics at this point. My opponent hasn't found Bill yet, so thankfully that's not the case. But the other problem is, I need a Mars for Martians to pop the counter surveillance. Again, I cannot use counter surveillance unless I have enough credits equal to my tags, and I'm still short of that. The rook tradings might get me there, but it'll take a while, 4 clicks to be exact. So I much rather the faster way of just drawing through my deck on this last run through my deck and finding the counter surveillances through injects. Now my opponent makes a big counter power play here. Looks like they ran out of patience. They figured that they can't draw the build through my R&D log, so instead they're using psychographics on a global food. That gives them 3 points, and then another tag punishment card is coming my way. Of course, you expect no less from CTM. As they fire team sponsorship here, they also play exchange of information, exchanging their AR enhanced security for my project build, putting them on 5 points and me on 4. Just one turn ago, the score was 5-1 in my favor. Now it's 4-5 in their favor, and they're on match point. I need to win this turn because the agenda in server 2 could be the winning agenda for them. I had to pop the DDoS counter surveillance here, and thankfully, the max draw at the start of my turn drew me into exactly the 3 outer that I needed, the Mars for Martians. So I was able to play Mars for Martians, play DDoS, play counter surveillance, use counter surveillance. That's all 4 of my clicks. I even played an amped up before that, so that I could run other servers in case this 18 card R&D dig whiffed for some reason. Some other subtle plays you may have noticed. If you rewind the video, you will have saw me play amped up after installing counter surveillance and DDoS. That's because I did not want the brain damage from amped up to snipe either of those combo cards from my hand. Gotta get them on the table before playing the amped up. Of course, if there's one hard counter to this deep R&D dig, it's the kitty cats. Unfortunately for my opponent, they were playing the variant with 3 AR enhanced securities but only 1 QPM. So they had no chance of winning off the R&D dig if I hit 2 kitty cats in a row. That wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to come in my way of winning this game. Now let's talk about deck construction. I asked my opponent what the econ package was, and they told me they cut their hedge funds for personalized portals, both of which are economy cards. You should never ever cut hedge fund.
I disagree.
You fool!
Look, this is fundamental Netrunner 101. You don't simply cut hedge fund and expect to get away scot-free with it. And we saw the repercussions of it this game. My opponent just did not have enough economy cards in the deck, and when they finally found it, you know, I had a very good incentive to just trash it and keep them poor. It was just not going to work out for them without the burst economy of hedge fund. You only cut hedge fund if you are a true meme maestro, which my opponent clearly wasn't. So yeah, so on the topic of deck discussion, I've seen multiple people come up with their own Rook Trading Max lists, which are all pretty interesting. I have looked through all of them. Unfortunately, I think quite a few of them also, you know, step into the pit. I mean, yeah, suffer from the pitfall of, you know, trying to jam too many resources, and, you know, just dying to scarcity or similar. Wireless net, Fall Guy, Dummy Box, all these things are really cool and all, but they don't actually actively contribute to your victory. I think you need to build a very different deck for that to work. I think the list that's closest to what I think is the ideal Rook Trading Tag Me Max list is actually this one, created by Stroop. Rook tagging at King of Subways. I think, well, as you see, it's pretty similar to my list in that we both came to the conclusion that Amped Up was pretty darn good in such a list. It works very well with Rook Trading. And you can even see that they are also, just like me, my old list, playing Wireless Net Pavilion without resource protection simply as a means of keeping Rook Trading on the table, making it that much more difficult to trash if you don't find your Amped Up, but want to get all the money off your Rook Trading. You'll notice some subtle differences as well. I think the most interesting change is the Dangling 2 influence. Stroop decided to use it on Shrike instead of Fem, which is a very inspired choice. I picked Fem because it can cover against Komainu of many things, but Shrike does that as well, you know, break all Komainus for 2 credits, and also deals very well with the likes of, say, Tour Guide against Asset Spam. Stroop also decided to play some currents of their own, like Interdiction, since they were running a few more resources than I was, and also playing Yarong New Max as well. So I think this is the closest you're gonna get to a good Rook Trading Tag Me Max list. Unfortunately, there's not much time left to play Tag Me Max, given some things that are going to come up in the future. Spoiler alert, turn off the video if you don't want to be spoiled about what's coming up in the future packs. But yeah, there's a card coming up in Pack 6, that's just going to ruin the Tag Me archetype. So I'm just going to have fun with this deck list while it's still playable. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and happy net running. See you next time. Goodbye.